Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us again. It's now time for our daily English edition, Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. There was a great deal of debate in Parliament today over the adoption of the National Bureau of Investigation. The Democratic chairman, Luzin Basha, spoke about voting against the draft, which, according to him, is not the one they agreed upon with the international partners. The Democrats are saying that the version approved by the Venice Commission would have placed the Bureau under the authority of the prosecution, not the state police. The debate took up about 2 hours in Parliament today, and most of the argument was between Prime Minister Rama and the former Prime Minister Salih Berisha. Mr. Berisha claimed that the draft does not reflect the Venice recommendations and that the opposition will not agree to place the Bureau under the supervision of the Interior Minister. He said that the Venice Commission has clearly supported the idea that the Bureau should be under the authority of the prosecution. On his side, Prime Minister Rama insisted that the draft is the very same one that the opposition agreed on with the mediation of the international partners. He called Berisha a professional liar who changes his attitude whenever it benefits him. Berisha repeated that the opposition will vote for the draft, but only if the Venice recommendations are reflected. In a conference on EU integration today, the EU ambassador Romana Vlahutin made the statement that the opening of negotiations is the responsibility of the political class. She repeated that the negotiations will depend on the realization of the reforms, and especially the justice reform. Ambassador Vlahutin had this to say: Albania cannot make progress without the reforms. We have been discussing the justice reform for months now, and there are still many things that need to be done. There are 5 priorities that need to be fulfilled. The Commission will decide whether it will recommend the opening of negotiations, and later it will be up to the member states. The Minister of Integration, Clyde Josha, also spoke at the event, once again emphasizing the importance of the justice reform and the political will it will take to finalize it. The chairwoman of the Commission of Integration, Majlinda Bregu, expressed the opinion that the Albanians are growing tired of prolonging this process. According to her, lack of faith in one another is the greatest cause of damage, and in this way, Albania has been its own worst enemy. Also present at the event, the Minister for Europe, Integration and Foreign Affairs from the Republic of Austria expressed hope for the coming year. Mr. Kurz said, "I believe that 2016 will be a successful year if the necessary reforms in the justice system are realized. It would be a very important step for the opening of negotiations. Austria will continue to support Albania," he said. The European Union has now funded several projects in Albania with the aim of bringing the country closer to the standards of the European countries. The EU has assisted Albania with €1,161 million since 2007 and expressed the intention to continue to assist the reforms until 2020. Lastly, Ambassador Vlahutin made the following statement: "The obligation to explain the process to the Albanian people is the responsibility of the politicians and to all those who are associated with this process. It is also our responsibility. It is your inner dialogue that will play a role. It is your journey. This is a transformation of society. It is a process that changes everything. It is an internal matter, but we are trying to help you," said the EU ambassador. The business community has not yet begun submitting their proposals for the fiscal package of 2017, although the Minister of Finance has declared that the draft and the bylaws will be ready by the end of August. The goal is to allow the business owners to get familiar with the tax changes before they enter into force. Sources from the Business Association have informed us that this year's demands will not only be related to tax cuts, but will also rely on the detailed study of all the changes the government has made in the past 2 years and the effects that they have had on enterprises and the economy in general. This primarily refers to tax increases that the government has made in the past 2 years and the fact that this has not increased the state revenue. Meanwhile, official sources from the Ministry of Finance have said that an official website will be opening soon for publishing the requests of the businesses so that all stakeholders can see them. The Minister of Finance stated that there will be no further tax increase, but only legal regulations. However, it is not known whether the government will reduce the VAT on tourism, which was promised but never accomplished this year. The sources explained that everything will depend on the revenue performance in the framework of the fight against informality. In their first public statement since completing the contract with Albania, the British company Crown Agents considered the arrangement to be a success. The company pointed out that the operational targets of the agreement were not only met, but greatly exceeded, especially in the detection of fraud and abuse. They announced that 4,500 cases of fraud were uncovered over the course of the contract. The company announced that because of these detections, they have been able to collect a greater amount of revenue than the value of the contract itself. In addition, they were able to accomplish this without adding any effective cost to the legal Albanian taxpayers. According to Crown Agents, the only people who suffered from their involvement were those who were trying to avoid their obligations. Crown Agents admits that because of the type of work and their level of experience, the Albanian administration will still have challenges to face. The experience gained through the cooperation with Crown Agents should help the administration overcome these challenges. The Minister of Finance also spoke about the conclusion of the 2-year contract with Crown Agents. He says that the cooperation was successful, even though the GDP did not grow as stated in the contract. Sources from the ministry confirmed that increasing the revenue was not the only objective of the cooperation, and in light of this, the shortage of income is not expected to inhibit the payment of Crown Agents, according to the specifications of their contract. The Ministry of Finance has been conducting audits for several of its institutions under its authority. According to the data released by the ministry, the audits have identified violations of public procurement rules in both the taxation and customs directorates. 8 officials have been fined between 50,000 to 300,000 lek, and disciplinary measures were given to 4 others. The ministry's audit of the loan agency revealed that the lack of a database for recording debt on bad loans has made it almost impossible to collect them up until 2013. Also, the payments the agency has had to make to unfairly dismissed employees has caused damage of 14.9 million lek. The ministry notes that based upon the results of these audits, the heads of the institutions have given disciplinary measures to 100 employees at all levels, fines for violations in 9 cases, and criminal charges for public officials in 2 instances. The government is currently working on drafting a new strategy for reintegrating Albanian citizens who are returning from abroad. The Minister of Social Welfare, Klosi, underlined that the strategy is necessary, given the fact that 27% of the Albanian population is migratory. According to him, the strategy is an obligation derived from the integration process. More than 27% of the population are working abroad, he said. The pressure of migration to and from Albania is likely to continue in the future. Albania is geographically positioned to experience great challenges in migration and the transit of irregular migrants, said Mr. Klosi. The minister emphasized that the strategy will involve free professional education for those who are returning. He went on, "Reintegrating the migrants will be one of the main points of our strategy. We will offer them vocational education for free, giving them the opportunity to become valuable first to the Albanian labor market and then to the EU labor market. With the facilitation of the legislation of the EU countries, they will be able to receive work contracts as professionals who are prepared to do good work," said Minister Klosi. During the presentation of the strategy, the minister repeated that the Albanians who try to gain asylum in the EU countries will not receive it. That's all of our news for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching, and please join us again tomorrow at the same time. Have a great night.